Okay, folks. Next topic we're going to touch on is school shootings. Okay? Have at it, Tyler.
All right. Well, school shootings. It ties in with mental health. It ties in with our Second Amendment right. It ties in with. I think it ties in with these blanket mandates and policies that the federal government tries placing on our schools, which actually hurt our economic situation. We see that in Whitingham. That's not even a federal policies that the Twin Valley School is going through. As far as Act 42, I believe, in Vermont, but or Act 60 when it really started. But Whitingham's suing the state over that because we have blanket policies on these schools, on our education, and what we need to do. And some schools, it's easy for them to handle putting in metal detectors or having so many teachers per student or whatever. But it's like a catch-22 where, at least it was for Twin Valley, where some of the mandates that the Twin Valley School had to put in place increased the cost per student so much that they were penalized for spending too much per student. But the only reason why they were spending too much per student is because they were trying to be complicit with the mandates that their state, that Vermont, put on them. So they're spending too much, and then they're getting fined for spending too much, which it sounds like a double tax to me. But that's just the state, and we have a federal board of education, and they come up with mandates and policies that all the schools across the nation have to follow, and that is increasing the costs for students. And I'm going to get into the school shootings, but I think it hampers a lot of communities, and we see a lot of communities having to just try and make it by when their communities are just dwindling away because of these kind of policies. And I think it adds more hindrance onto like our mental health, because it's putting more challenges and barriers in our way and making us feel overwhelmed and anxious and a sense of anxiety, and that's not good for our mental health. And we also need to take a look at our state of mental health, and I think that some students who are getting held back and don't have and don't feel like they have a voice, they're feeling flustered and they don't know what to do, and when they don't feel like they have someone to talk to, and it's like pushing people into a corner. And you probably heard something about, not to corner what's the saying? I can't remember the saying, but it's the most dangerous person is a cornered person. And I feel like a lot of people are feeling cornered, and it's disturbing, and it's affecting these school shootings, I believe. But like I said, federal mandates and policies aren't the way to go, because every community is different. And if one community understands that the best policy is to have metal detectors and locking doors on all the classes, and plastic see-through backpacks. You know, that's good for one community maybe, but for another community it could be overkill and not even economically viable. I think it has to come from a local level, because the further away someone is, the least apt, the least able they are to best regulate.
Mm-hmm. Well, I picked up on a few things that Tyler had mentioned. I want to repeat the situation of isolation and bullying. He didn't say bullying, but it's the same, similar in there. And people having no voice, not able to talk, not able to give their input and be heard. Okay? Or he mentioned being pushed into a corner. Now, I just went to a school shooting presentation in Bennington. And these were all brought up by the director of the public education for the state. She mentioned all these things. And it just so happens to be a coincidence that later on in that meeting, when the pro-Second Amendment, pro-Article 16 people came forth to speak, they were isolated, they were bullied, they were given no voice, they were not able to freely talk, they were given a short time at the very end after people were leaving. And they're kind of pushing us into a corner.
Yeah.
So everything they said don't do is what they're doing.
Yep.
And do they realize it?
No,
They don't even realize it. And you try to bring it forth to them, and they don't hear you because they're not listening. They're isolating you. And this is the situation we're in here. And they did bring up that each school needs to do it locally. Just what you said.
Yep.
Exactly what you said. But when you go to your local school to try to do a unique thing and give them some ideas based on the layout of the school, who the neighbors are, do they want to hear any? No. Neighbors? Local people? No, you're not allowed in school. We'll do it our way, type of thing. And it's backwards. You see, local folk are supposed to tell the school folk. The school board is supposed to tell the superintendent what to do, not the other way around. So we got things backwards there also. So something else I've been noticing about these school shooters, everybody should go to schoolshooters.com and do some research on them. Because there's some things they have in common, and some things that are in common are the exact inverse, but they're based on the same thing. And it's really interesting. And it really gives us a challenge as to seeing what's going on here.
Yeah.
I even noticed it with the fella up in Fairhaven there, who just got released on bail. That's the neighbors. That's where we live around here, neighborhood. If you can hear that. But yeah. One of the things that is in common is a missing moral value of life. And if we notice in these, not all of them, but majority of them, once these kids kill somebody, what do they end up doing? They end up killing themselves. And I think once they see what they've done, it hits them hard, and then what, and they end up doing what they're going to do. Maybe some of them plan to do that beforehand. But something I've noticed about school shootings is that it's most of the time it's school students are doing the school shootings. So for me, I would say there's a problem in the schools.
Yeah.
So, this is where we need to see what's going on. And I think the problem is secular, humanistic, progressive socialism. That's what I think. And because it's leaving out a whole situation of value and where does life come from, who gives it, and who's able to take it away. Now, just another little note on this. You know, I talk a lot about the Second Amendment and Article 16 in Vermont, and about it not being about hunting. But I got to tell you something about hunting. I remember the first deer I killed. And I shot that thing and it didn't die instantly. I went up to it and it was still breathing. And well, I had to put it down. And I was right there and I watched life leave that critter. All right? It hit me. I took life from a living being. And it was a deer. But still, I learned a lesson. I learned what firearms are used for, and you know, I understand that. And I don't want to take no life, because I've seen it leave. I've seen it leave other times too, and it's not nothing I want to do. And I'm not sure if a lot of these school shooters have ever experienced death like that at their own hand beforehand. And when it happens in their own hands, well, of course they're going to take their life, I'm thinking. You got anything else you want to add?
Not really.
Not
no.
at this time, because it's such a heavy subject, and we got to go there. We have to go there. We have to engage this subject and go deeper and deeper. And it's just too much to do right at this first meeting here and all. And but I'm in agreement with you.
Thank you.
We need to go forth on this.
I'm in agreement with you too.
Okay, folks. Catch you later.